and Ron is my vice chair. He's a bit tied up, I think, tonight. Hopefully we'll see him, but if we don't, then we do have apologies possibly from him. So on we go. We're looking forward to hearing from our speakers this evening and from all of you, of course, with any questions, feedback and suggestions. So please do remember to sign in to the meeting so that we have a record of who has attended, and then we can ensure that you're on our mailing list. So we do have apologies from Councillor Liz Hardman and Councillor Sarah Evans. So this evening's meeting, as I'm sure you know, is also the AGM. So Ron and I are pleased to stand for our respective roles again. In addition to the forum meetings, we also meet regularly with council officers to discuss agenda items and with the chairs and vice chairs of other Connecting Communities forums. And these meetings also include the chair and director of the Baines Third Sector Group, the 3SG. So, and that represents voluntary and community groups across Bath and North East Somerset. And the chair and vice chair of Baines branch of ALCA, the Avon Local Councils Association, which represents local parish and town councils. We share information about the forum's discussions and any concerns to ensure all are aware of local priorities. So, before we start the meeting, this is a final call for nominations for the role of chair and vice chair. Please. No? No. Okay, right. Well, we'll move on to item 2 of the agenda and the notes of the previous AGM.
Well, Linda, I think we're not quorate, unfortunately.
Are we not?
2, 3, 4, 5. No, we're not quorate at the moment. So what I think we'll do is if we move that to the end of the meeting in case anybody joins us. So that brings everything forward to this bit. So we're on to the police.
Okay, right then.
Mark is here. I can see you.
Okay, yes, I see that Mark Graham's with us. Lovely to see you. I haven't seen you for ages.
No, unfortunately, I've been off with an injury, so apologies for my absence around town.
Oh, right. Well, look, how are you now? Are you okay?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, my foot is healing, not 100% healing, but I am back out in uniform and visible again. That's the main thing.
Well, it's very nice to hear that. Yes, thank you. So
you're always visible, Mark.
That's Ron. Here he is. Ron. Yes. Hi, Ron. That's brilliant. Okay, then. Does that make us quorate?
No.
No, we're still not quorate, even though Ron has managed to get to join us. So that's great. Okay, then. So to everyone else, well, having had a private conversation with Mark, I'd like to introduce PC Mark Graham from the Somer Valley Police Beat. Over to you then.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Like I've already been introduced, my name is Mark Graham. I'm the local beat manager working out of Bradstock Police Station. I like to take these opportunities where we've got everybody around to open the floor up to see if there's any burning questions that people may have that they want to put to the police. I do have some crime statistics available, which I'm happy to share with you. I will do now. He says, hopefully you might be able to see what I'm showing you.
Yeah, it's all fine.
Fantastic. So this is the Midsummer Norton Radstock crime statistics over the last 3 months. For some reason it's gone backwards from the 11th to the 10th to the 9th. The main thing to look at are the colours. And this month, the 11th, is grey, certainly with regards to violence against the person. We are looking in a much better position compared to October and September. And I think looking at it overall, just the Midsummer Norton and Radstock area, everything seems to be on the downward slope. The only thing that we've got really is the section offences, which has matched those of September, and that is 2 incidents. Each of those are 2 incidents. Nothing in October, but I would expect them to be very low anyway. Robberies, public order offences, again, as you can see, if the colour isn't present, then clearly there hasn't been any offences registered. So certainly on the overlook, everything seems to be in the right direction. I do have further crime statistics for Mendip North and Peasdown St John. I wasn't sure whether those areas are in this forum meeting as well, Alison.
Sorry, I stepped away a moment there, Mark. Which communities did you say?
So Mendip North and Peasdown St John.
Peasdown's part of the Summer Valley Forum.
Lovely. So if we look at Peasdown St John, again, violence against person, we're still looking at the same colours, grey, orange and blue. Peasdown has an uptake on vehicle crime, which I believe the local councillors would understand due to the number of reported off-road bikes and incidents that we've had. Now, we are tackling the antisocial behaviour relating to the bikes and identifying the individual riders. The difficulty that we have and what makes it seem like not an awful lot is going on in the forefront is because it is all happening in the background. What we can't do as an organisation is chase these children on these off-road bikes. If we were to chase them with them not having helmets on and there was an accident and they would happen to get seriously injured, we would be at fault as an organisation. And I'm sure that everyone would support us in saying that actually what we don't want to do is injure children. So it is about intelligence. It is about identifying the riders and users of these bikes in the background, issuing Section 59 notices, and possibly even Road Traffic Act offences. So I would have expected that to be higher than other months anyway. Everything else, as you can see, other with regards to Peasdown, except for the possession of weapons, is also on the downward spiral, which is good. Possession of weapons, that is 1 incident, and I believe, having looked at that, that was somebody found with a knife. And then we've got the team. I will myself, Stephanie, and Glyn are the Midsummer Norton team, and we've got the Peasdown St John team. Unfortunately, I don't have their images, which is Matthew Bendel as the beat manager, Louise Jones and Tony McIntosh as the two PCSOs. So hopefully, by looking at the crime statistics, it's easy to see that on both areas, Midsomer Norton and Peasdown, you know, there are significant falls in the reported crimes that have coming in. If you're happy, if you've got any questions in relation to those, I'm more than happy to open the floor now.
Thanks very much, Mark. That does really look very interesting. We do have a couple of questions coming in. Eleanor, you were first, I believe.
Yes, I am puzzled because there's no mention of Westfield, and we have considerable problems, especially vandalism. We also have the problem of the children on bikes chasing up and down the old lanes, but I really don't understand why Westfield doesn't show up at all, especially, as I said, because of the thousands of pounds of damage that's been done to the play areas in Norton Hill and West Hill recreation grounds. We've also had a problem with attempted burglaries, and we are actually very pleased to have a visit from the Police and Crime Commissioner to the parish council after I'd taken her on a tour of the area, and she was really positive and helpful. So what's the answer to why Westfield has been left out?
Oversight on my part, Eleanor, I do apologise. Westfield does come under the same area code as Midsomer Norton and Radstock, and the code being Charlie Sierra 224. So those particular statistics for the Midsomer Norton and Radstock, hopefully you can see my alteration and added Westfield in there as well. Westfield does come under the same beat code, so the statistics would be the same as those shown.
Can't see vandalism in the list of crimes.
So vandalism would be criminal damage, arson and criminal damage.
That's the first point. Secondly, of course, it's only a few, one instance in each case. We had somebody impersonating a Baines officer in Shakespeare Road a fortnight ago, obviously with some scam or fraud. I was wondering, how do you record scams and frauds and
so with regards
internet crime?
So with scams and fraud, we don't record it because it is dealt with through Action Fraud in London, which is the National Centre for recording all scams and fraud incidents.
And finally, I was the object of an extremely malicious email on Monday, and I really commend George Simpson and the police for dealing with the situation.
It's brilliant to hear that. George Simpson is the, for everybody else, is the beat manager that covers Westfield and Radstock. Although we work, we work very closely together and we cover each other, we do have the beat split down slightly. So yeah, I tend to look at the Midsomer Norton area, and George and his team look at the Westfield and Radstock. So that's really good to hear, and I will feed that back to him. Thank you, Eleanor.
Thank you.
That's right. Ron, you had a question as well?
Yeah. Thanks for the notes, Mark. Interesting. I for the rest of the people here, just to remind you, I'm a Westfield councillor. I'm truly staggered at your comments about the pit bikes, and the word pit bikes has become, I'm trying to stop people using that and start saying motorbikes, because Eleanor herself upstairs, who's a Baines councillor, referred to kids on bikes. The problem around here is not just kids on bikes. It's 6-foot youths and adults in balaclava helmets with hoods on, no crash helmets, and riding bikes with the number plates removed. And the other day, there were 3 of them in the centre of Radstock, not Westfield, but going towards Westfield. One bike had 3 people on board, would you believe? And they were all 250, 350, 500cc bikes. These are not tiny bikes anymore.
No, they're not.
This is blatant disregard. And I wonder whether the time has come for set some sort of traps for these people.
So we are identifying them, and the plan, once identified, we will be looking to, 1, give section 59, which gives us the power to seize those bikes, 2, prosecute for their reckless driving. So I know you're saying a 6-foot guy, youths. Yes, they are 6 foot, but they are, like you say, youths. They are, in the eyes of the law, still children, and we, rightly so, should not be putting children at harm by chasing them. And that is.
Let me stop you, Mark, for a second. I'm sorry, you're kidding yourself if you think these are kids. They are not kids. These are 16, 17, 18-year-olds who know exactly what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. No,
and
but
so you trivialize it by saying kids, because people, when you say kids, people think of small people, 4 foot tall, 10 years old, and that's not the case at all. These are.
I understand. I do understand what you're saying, Ron. I do understand what you're saying, Ron. But in the eyes of the law, anybody under the age of 18 is classed as an adolescent. So your 15, 16, 17-year-olds, they are still, in the eyes of the law, children. They're adolescents. I know they're 6 foot. I know they're built like adults. But even with adults, would we chase an adult on a motorbike without a helmet, and potentially put that person's life at risk?
Of course not.
So we have to try and be a bit smarter about how we identify and how we deal with these people.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ron. So move on to Tim, please. Tim Warren.
Yeah, thank you. And apologies, I was a bit late getting. I couldn't sign in for some reason, but we're here now. Mark, there's a couple of places in Midsummer Norton that could just do with a few police there with speed cameras. Who's the best person to talk about that? To you?
You can speak to me. Where are you thinking?
A couple of places really. There's the Chilcompton Road. And,
yeah.
Oh God, what's the name of it? Oh, John lost the plot, so I've been rushing around all day. Just the road opposite.
Poulton Road?
No, sorry, I've lost the plot now, totally.
So you've got Chilcompton Road, you've got Poulton Road.
Wells Road, the top end of the Fossway.
Yeah, that's not great either.
Going past St Benedict's School.
Yeah, do you know, I've lost the plot totally now, sorry.
That's okay.
I walked up it the other day. I nearly got run over about 14 times the time I was
We're
getting
not talking about
Withy's Lane, sorry, Withy's Lane.
Withy's Lane,
Yeah, Withy's
yes.
Park. Around Withy's Park.
Yeah, so okie dokie. With regards to Chilcompton Road, I have addressed that with the speed camera chap, Adrian. I believe an assessment has been done for that road, so I can again bring that up with him and see if he can do some monitoring. The other road, Withy's Lane,
Yeah, Withy's Park is.
Withy's Park.
Yes,
I can bring that up. He has to do a risk assessment for each road that he positions himself on. So I will, I'll make a note of that now for those two areas. So Withy's Park and
yeah, I think Withy's Park's probably the worst one, to be honest with you.
you think Withy's Park is
It's the
worse?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, I've seen of it.
Okay, I'll put that down as a priority.
Thank you.
No worries.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Well,
No
thank
worries.
you. Thank you very much for coming and joining us, Mark. And
No,
I hope you're fit and well soon.
I see Ron's got his hand up. Is that for a previous hand?
That's right. That was the previous one.
No worries.
Yes.
I am always available at Radstock, as are any of the neighbourhood team officers. One thing I would like just to highlight at the moment, because we haven't been as visible as we would have liked. The biggest issue that we have at the moment is resources. Certainly Midsummer Norton, with myself not being out and about. Steph, our PCSO, was injured, so she hasn't been out, and at one point even Glyn wasn't out, so you were missing all three of us for approximately 3 to 4 weeks, I think. But I know Glyn's back, I'm back, Steph's back in the office, so that's good. Overall, for everyone's information really, is the resources in the station from the neighbourhood point of view is we are running at a minimum staffing, well, probably less than a minimum staffing level. If I was to say this time last year, we had 6 beat managers and 13 PCSOs. Compared to now, we've dropped back down to 5 beat managers. We were lucky for a period last year to have the additional, but on paper we should only have 5. But PCSO wise, we are down to 6, and that's due to natural wastage, retirement, leaving the job, and movement within the force. And obviously the force hasn't been recruiting to fill these places. Eleanor, I see that your hand's gone up.
Yes, I mean, I really think it is a case of a thin blue line. But first of all, I mean, when it's a serious issue like the threats I had made against me, you acted so quickly and promptly, and it's all worked out and sorted. So if there's something dire happening, you do seem to be able to cope with it. Obviously, a lot of your work is preventative, and simply seeing police people on the beat is an enormous help. A police and crime commissioner is obviously to do with strategy and prioritizing and resources rather than actual operational matters. But I would say to members of the other parish councils here, it's well worth inviting Claire. We had a really productive time with her, and she, I think, learned quite a lot about our problems too.
Brilliant. Thank you, Eleanor.
Okay.
If there are no further questions, do you mind if I shoot off?
No, of course, you've got enough on your plate, certainly, Mark. But we'll see you again soon. So just take care.
Please,
thank you very much for your time.
I will see you soon, out and about. Take care.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
indeed. Bye-bye. Okay, so Ron, are you taking over from here?
Am I? I'm sorry, I've been unavailable on email, on Wi-Fi because there's been an OpenReach fan outside ripping wires out all day. So
don't worry then. That's all right. It's no problem today.
I'll carry on. I'll butt in as I can, please.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll now move on to the next item, which is to welcome Sean Fletcher, who is chair of Radstock in Bloom and also a Southwest in Bloom judge, to tell us more about this campaign, which a number of local communities enter annually, including Westfield, Jackson. Eleanor.
Hello, I'm going to, I think the best way to highlight the In Bloom competition is to go with what I know. So I'm going to share a bit of knowledge about Radstock and what we do, and also the importance of what I think is the importance of Southwest in Bloom and the judging that happens and why it happens. So hopefully I will share my screen. This one. Can you all see that?
Yeah, it's great.
Excellent. Okay. So, celebrating Radstock in Bloom, celebrating community spirit, horticulture, and environmental excellence. So, I'm going to give you a brief introduction. What is Radstock in Bloom? Well, this can generalize to any Bloom group. It's a local volunteer initiative aimed at beautifying Radstock through gardening, floral displays, environmental and sustainable practices, and maintaining green spaces in Radstock. Working with Radstock Town Council, Radstock traders and community groups, our primary goal is to make Radstock a brighter, cleaner town to live, work, shop and visit. The town and shops benefit from the floral displays and hanging baskets, creating a welcoming and vibrant town centre. The power of flowers has proven to increase well-being, footfall, and the local economy. Working with many community groups and schools, In Bloom engage with young and old, creating a stronger community and pride of place. Radstock No Place for Litter Hub has brought about a change in behaviour around Radstock, and whilst littering still occurs, the overall trend is down. I'm just going to stop here a minute and just give you a little sort of brief insight into Radstock Litter Hub. You may know of Keynsham Wombles, you may know of Bath and Dorset, Somerset. We've been working with them and we've created the No Place, you may know of the No Place for Litter campaign. We've been working with them and we've created this litter hub, which is a place where you can just go in, pick up a litter picker and a bag and go out and litter pick. And it has been an absolute success. It has really worked really well. And I would strongly recommend that Baines think about rolling this out across the whole of the Somer Valley, because I think it would just, we've seen a massive downtrend in littering. Like I say, it does still occur, but the downtrend has been phenomenal. Moving on, the creation of Southfields Community Garden as part of the Be Bold project has transformed a disused, overgrown space into a pollen-rich educational space for increased biodiversity and well-being. We've been working with Radstock Town Council, WECA, and ourselves. We put together a community garden, and I will now show you if I can get my laser pointer to work. So this is what this space looked like originally when we took it over. This is what it has now been transformed into. And this whole border is been planted for pollinators and biodiversity and things like that. And on top of that, what we've done is we've added in 7 information boards so that it becomes an educational space. So we cover things like local wildlife, bees, pollination project, the composting cycle, the benefits of a dead hedge, and wildflowers. It's been a real success, and also we now have a forest school that use it every Wednesday, so it's become a real sort of a real place for for activity, and it's been a fantastic result. Since the beginning, I'm sure Eleanor's going to correct me here, since the beginnings in 2012, Radstock has achieved 7 RHS Britain in Bloom Gold Awards and won Best in Category on 2 occasions. We have maintained a gold standard for the last 3 years. How have we managed our success? A service level agreement with Radstock Town Council provide funding of £5,500 per year. Without this partnership, Radstock in Bloom would not exist. In return, the Town Council receives maintenance to green spaces, year-round floral displays, including up to 60 summer hanging baskets for our town, clean streets and community organised events, event support and publicity. In 2024, Radstock in Bloom, working in all wards of Radstock, have spent over 800 hours volunteering. In 2023, the national estimate value of volunteering time in the UK was £14.43 per hour. In money terms, this equates to £11,544. So that is a really good return. So basically, Radstock Town Council, even on volunteer hours alone, are doubling their money. By participating in the RHS Southwest in Bloom competition and the In Your Neighbourhood scheme, the lead up to judging brings numerous benefits to our town, fostering community spirit and pride. It encourages residents, businesses and organisations to collaborate in beautifying public spaces, creating an inviting and visual appealing environment. The initiative has inspired environmental sustainability efforts such as litter reduction, conservation projects and increased biodiversity. Furthermore, the competition celebrates the town's unique character and achievements, raising its profile regionally and nationally, whilst fostering a sense of pride amongst its participants. And that is the end of my presentation.
Right, well, that was fascinating. A lot of that I didn't know about, so I really was impressed with that. Thank you, Sean. So does anybody else want to come in? Eleanor, did you want to say anything?
Well, I was going to say a few words because the experience of Westfield in Bloom is a little bit different. I was in on the birth of Radstock in Bloom and still look after 6 of the tubs in the centre of Radstock, which were part of the original It's Your Neighbourhood part of Southwest in Bloom. If I scroll back, Southwest in Bloom has got 3 basic aims, which Sean has covered very well. They're horticultural excellence, environmental, I can't remember its sensitivity or concern, involvement, environmental matters, and community engagement. And as Sean rightly says, it's there's a lot more to In Bloom than beautiful flower beds and horticultural achievement. So when I got involved with Westfield, it was working rather differently because we have what's called the It's Your Neighbourhood competition, It's Your Neighbourhood projects, really, of different sizes and shapes. There's no definition of what a neighbourhood is. And we started with that. We've only been going in Southwest in Bloom for 3 years. And the first year we took as a theme, who is my neighbour? What are we doing as a neighbourly lot in Westfield, which we of course think we are. But anyway, we already had Westfield Primary School as an outstanding It's Your Neighbourhood project with a prize for the best compost heap in the West last year. The best pub, they have the most amazing gardening club, and it's been going for 10 years, involving parents, children, and it always wows the judges. And the other outstanding entry was the allotments. We are very strong with allotments in Westfield, although they're organised quite differently from the ones in Radstock. They're more with an association. So we started off with 2 diamonds, as it were. Added to that, we then got the new allotments at Larch Court, and I got the Fossway School involved, who won an outstanding award this year. And the Fossway School is a special school, and the work they're doing with St. Peter's Church, it just blows your mind, quite frankly. We have the Swallows Old Pit. They have a garden up at their offices where they grow fruit and vegetables and herbs and have an eco project. So they came into the mix. And we ended up with 2 brand new ones this year as well. Shakespeare Road, where a resident thought this area is a dump, like Sean was saying at the beginning of his presentation, and she organised a display on the grass verge opposite the Baines play area there. So, and that got a very good mark this year. What was the other new one? Sorry, my mind's gone a blank, but never mind. So we got these projects, and it was a question of linking them together and also working in partnership very much with the parish council, who have a separate contract for flowers in public places and for the hanging baskets, the displays in the coal trucks, which is actually Alison Wells's original idea. She got them installed. And working with the parish council is absolutely crucial. What does the parish council get out of it? Well, it's not so much anything monetary at all. It's to do with community identity. The fact, that Westfield was not on that police report is just typical. Westfield Civic Parish has only been going since 2011. So we've got this continual issue. Where is Westfield? However, Westfield is punching above its weight, and coming back to the environmental component in Southwest in Bloom, we bought 6 fields along the waterside, running from the back of the Swallows Cafe in Radstock right the way up the stream for 6 fields. And we're making that into a great environment. When I say we, it's the parish council in Bloom and Soma Valley Rediscovered with Mariam Goodenough, into a great environmental project where people can learn about the environmental issues, but also relax, enjoy the dog walker's paradise, let's face it. And there won't be a big housing estate there. And this is in partnership with Radstock Town Council, who bought the other side of the stream, what's known as the Hayden Batch. So that's how it is a partnership also with the local businesses. We're sponsored by Curo, Radco, and we're getting some of the smaller businesses involved as well. So it all goes to make a better community identity. And we had as our theme this year, gardening is good for you and for Westfield. And I think that about sums it up, really, that gardening is so beneficial to people's mental health and physical well-being and to the community as a whole. And that thing, I've got somewhere to be proud of. Any questions? Would you like to get involved? We need lots more volunteers in Westfield. You don't have to live in Westfield, but we need an IT person to do our website. We need somebody to blog. We need somebody to do press releases. And it has to be said, our treasurer doesn't really know a dahlia from a dandelion, but she keeps the figures in order and the books. And somebody else does the grant applications. So you don't necessarily have to get your hands dirty, but I think the way I've structured Westfield in Bloom comes about because actually most volunteers don't want to sit in cold church halls discussing constitutions and safeguarding policies and insurance and things, and they want to just get their hands really earthy, muddy and wet, even in this weather.
Well, thank you for that, Eleanor, and Sean for your chat as well. Does anyone have a question? Any questions? No? No? Well, that's brilliant because, of course, everything you've told us was so clear. Thank you very much indeed. And I know you're going to be off in a little while, aren't you, Eleanor, because you've got another meeting to go to. And thank you very much.
Yeah, with the head of planning.
Yeah, and thank you to both of you for coming to the meeting tonight. See you again.
Thank you.
Thanks. And don't forget to pick up the litter when you're going through Radstock and Westfield.
You can get litter pickers in the library and community hub.
Okie doke then.
Take care all. Thank you very much.
Okay, right. Well, we'll move on to item 8 then, and I'd like to introduce Ella Thomas, who's the Development Officer with Baines, and ask you to give an update on the Summer Valley Enterprise Zone, please.
Hi, thanks all. Let me just share my screen. Can you see that okay?
Yes, great.
Yeah, that's great.
Hi, so my name's Ella Thomas. I'm Development Officer working for the Council on the Summer Valley Enterprise Zone project, or SVEZ as I'll probably refer to it throughout. Here to provide a quick update to the forum since our last visit, as I don't believe we've been since last year. So let me move forward. So this is a CGI of the site of what it could be based on our illustrative master plan that was formed as part of the local development order. So the delivery of SVEZ is a corporate priority for the council and part of the 10-point delivery plan for the council's economic strategy by promoting new and emerging development for businesses. It's also part of the combined authorities growth plan for the region, as the Summer Valley has been identified as a growth zone. The scheme has flexible uses, including office space, research and development and industrial processes, and can provide 1,300 jobs to the area. So since we last came to the forum, which I believe was last September, so it has been a while, we have made quite a lot of progress. In February, we went to Cabinet and the local planning authority adopted our local development order, which sets the planning framework for the scheme, how development can be used on site and the infrastructure works. We also took an ambitions paper through Cabinet, which focused on what we wanted to see from the scheme and how the development can be beneficial to the wider area. And lastly, in February, we took a compulsory purchase order in principle decision, which allowed for the project team to move forward with some land referencing agents to reference the scheme and contact those who may be impacted by land acquisition. Later on, after that work was done in July, the Cabinet granted us the authority to implement a full compulsory purchase order. The team has been working on this since then to develop the required documentation for a CPO and has been continuing negotiations with landowners. We have also appointed Atkins Realis to undertake the detailed design work for the on and off-site works. Atkins have been appointed as a strategic development partner with the council and will also be working on designing the Summer Valley Links project, which links and overlaps with the SVEZ scheme. And I believe they are going back out to consultation in February. So I think they'll be coming back to you in the new year. And most recently, we've been to Cabinet to secure a side roads order and any traffic regulation orders that the scheme might need. So essentially, traffic regulation orders regulate the use of the highways, so for example speed limits or relocating signs, and a side roads order gives us the approvals for the physical alterations of the carriageway or creating new carriageway. So it captures all of our highway consents at one time. Excuse me. Just as a reminder, I think you've potentially seen this slide before, but so as well as the on-site development, we are undertaking a number of highways mitigations along the A362. This does include a segregated walking and cycling path, which runs from Old Mills Lane up to Thicketmead Roundabout and then links in with the Norton Radstock Greenway. And from Old Mills Lane towards Farrington Gurney is where the Summer Valley Links project will be providing their own active travel route. The site itself will benefit from a new roundabout, which allows vehicles to enter onto the site, but also bypasses this S-bend at Springfield Buildings, and will straighten out the A362 there. And then at Thicketmead, at the other end, there will be adjustments to the roundabout to account for any increased vehicles from the Somer Valley Enterprise Zone, but also committed development in the area, including the Welton Bib Bag site, Old Mills Industrial Site, and Radco, as and when they come forward. So moving forward, oh, I've gone the wrong way, sorry. Moving forward into what's next for SFES, we are looking to make and serve the compulsory purchase order and the side roads order in early 2025. There will be statutory objection periods, which are 21 and 42 days, but we will combine those and have both provide opportunity to send representations for 42 days for both orders. We will ensure that there are press releases, site notices and letters sent to all impacted parties on how they, and to advise on how they can make their own representations to the Secretary of State. We'll provide physical versions of the documents. They'll be made available at the Hollies Library in Midsummer Norton. And we're also happy to send out any copies of the notices to the forum and the local parish and town council so they can be shared wider as and when required. And then it looks like we will be hosting a public inquiry later in 2025, dependent on what representations are made. Whilst this work is being undertaken, Atkins will develop our technical designs for the highways and enabling works, and the project team is aiming to submit a full business case to WECA in late 2025, with the aim for highway works to begin early 2026. And that's where we're at so far with SFES. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That's quite fascinating. And so does anybody else have any questions?
Anne Say, Parish Councillor with Ston Easton.
So who was that?
Anne Huckle.
Anne?
Yeah.
Did you have a question? Anne Huckle?
There she is.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Sorry about that. Ella, thank you very much for that presentation. That was very comprehensive, and a set of the slides would be really useful.
Yeah, of course.
As Alison said, I actually sit on the Ston Easton and Clapton Parish Council, so not in Baines, but we are right next to Baines. And as we said in the consultation period, very concerned about the impact on the parish. And so I'm particularly keen to know what action Baines have taken to ensure that Langley's Lane, which, as you know, is accessed off the new roundabout that's being put in place, off the A37 onto Hay Street and off the B3139 in Chilcompton. Frankly, that is what it says it is. It's a country lane which is used by walkers, by cyclists, by horse riders. Inevitably, if there isn't some form of traffic calming measures or measures to stop that being used as a rat run, it will become absolutely that. And whilst you'll have all these really nice links down by Tesco's and Wickes and all of it is now, go off those roads, and quite frankly, you're very likely to be run over by the number of white vans that go up and down, will be going up and down there at great speed. We estimate probably a significant number of journeys per year. So I'm interested to know what action Baines have taken to address those issues, because at the moment it seems that as soon as you get into Mendip, it stops and no action has been taken. So I'm wondering if you could help me there, please.
Yes, so when we were developing the mitigation options, which have all been approved through the LDO by the LPA, traffic modelling was undertaken to determine how movements would, vehicular movements would be done once through the development. And the mitigations we've put in place have been for the predicted vehicular movements. I mean, I'm more than happy to look into further what other options are able to be delivered, but they potentially might not be part of this scheme. That's something we would have to look into further and come back to you.
Well, that would be useful because whilst I understand that the traffic monitoring and surveying that was done, we as a parish council didn't agree with that, and we've not seen anything in terms of what mitigations have been put in place to stop that single track country lane being used, which, as I say, not only will affect residents, but will be a danger to people driving up and down it, quite honestly. You know, for example, have you been in touch with Mendip District Council and highways? I don't see a joined up approach here, so I would be grateful for a response to that, please, if you may.
I'm more than happy to take that away and come back to you.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you. I haven't got any more questions.
Please.
Right. Yeah, you're on mute. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah,
Tim?
you want me? Yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
please.
The one bit I don't like about this and never have is the CPOs. I think the scheme's going to be good for the area. I know a lot of it's a bit controversial, but I'm a great supporter of the scheme. Have you an idea yet? I know it's a bit soon, about how many people will be affected by CPOs? And that's the first question. The second part as well, which you may or may not be able to actually want to answer in this, is about the price, not the monetary price, but will it be agricultural price or will it be industrial price for the land?
Unfortunately, Tim, I cannot speak to the status of negotiations at present and the offers that have been made in a public forum.
That's great.
But we have contacted all those who are impacted. It does look like a high number of people, although that is quite mainly based on those who have what we call subsoil rights within the highway. So at a certain level in the highway, it is unknown as to who owns that. So a lot of it is then assumed that all of those who own land either side have an interest, and therefore that has increased the numbers, because obviously the scheme itself is based along the highway. So we have contacted everyone, and they have and begun conversations with them.
Sorry, I mean the land for the actual enterprise area rather than the roads.
Yeah. So I believe there is. I believe it's 8. It's either 5 or 8 ownerships. I apologise.
Sure.
Within the actual land itself, I would have to confirm.
And are any agreed yet, or are they all like to go to CPO?
Again, I can't sorry,
Okay.
I can't discuss the
No
status
problem.
of negotiations.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Hello.
Hello.
Ella.
Yes, Ron, you're
Ella.
next.
Okay, Ella, thank you very much for giving us that presentation. It's pretty regulation stuff you're dishing out. Let me ask you some fundamental questions about the effect on the local authority, local economy here, and traffic management, because mitigation in a place like Midsummer Norton and Radstock is something very easy, very difficult to achieve when you look at the structure of the buildings and the road structures. Most of the vehicle, I'm right in saying that a large building on the site is allocated to distribution. Is that correct?
It has the potential for it to be a storage and distribution hub. Yes.
Yes, the potential, and you obviously can't describe any interest involved in that. But let's just say that a large distribution business, which you've just said about, requires to be filled with goods to distribute. The only sensible route for traffic to fill that building is from Bristol, and I can just got out of my head. I can't think of the name of the village with the traffic lights at the top. It's gone, but you're widening the route through from past the villages with eliminating the S-bends and parking and.
Oh, through Farrington Gurney.
Farrington Gurney. Sorry, thank you for helping me there. Farrington Gurney. That's a 2-lane road, unless you dramatically change it. When you come to distribution and transport, you're coming into my area of expertise. If you deliver with a 4-axle trailer, a 3-axle trailer into that distribution network, it will take 23 white vans to move the goods. Can you imagine the effect of those vehicles being unleashed on the local economy and the local road network? And how has that been mitigated by your researchers?
So the illustrative master plan does show the storage and distribution hub. So and it is the uses shown in the illustrative master plan that have fed into our traffic modelling, which includes the prediction of incoming and outgoing traffic to and from the site. So the modelling that we've done has then fed into those mitigations that we will deliver. So we have considered the use of the storage and distribution centre on site and how that impacts vehicle movements.
So you're saying that the number of white van movements, the number of small distribution vehicles has been considered in your plan?
Yes, so the likely vehicle movements based on the use type of a storage and distribution has been included in the traffic plans.
Can you please distribute a copy of those researches, please, to us?
Yeah, I believe it will be in the
especially the number of vehicle movements and the route they're to test and the route they're likely to take to get to other destinations.
I believe that's all on that. Yes, that will be in our travel plan on the planning portal, but I'm happy to issue a copy.
Thank you very much. That's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Yes, Eleanor. Yeah, Eleanor?
Yeah, I'll have to go in half a minute. So first of all, I'd like to declare an interest in that I'm a director of Radco. So I was very interested to hear you mention Radco, and I'd like to have a conversation with you probably outside this forum about how the Soma Valley Enterprise Zone is going to impact on the development of the Radco site, which is something that I unashamedly promote, agitate for, and generally machinate as both a director of Radco and a member representing Westfield on Baines. So that's the first thing. How is it going to impact on Radco, and how is Radco going to benefit? And remembering that this is the site where the head offices of the entire cooperative movement in Somerset, I mean, Radco, we call it that for shorthand, but it's actually 22 stores across the whole of Somerset. That's the first point. Second point, I hope that in following up from what Ron has said, you're factoring in buses. At the moment, the only bus that goes round there regularly, only it's one of the most erratic services we've got, is the 172. And if we're going to have a sizable number of people employed on this site, there needs to be much better bus services than there are currently. So please, can we have a plan for public transport, and don't just say cycle, because the weather at the moment is not one to encourage cycling, and the lanes are far too narrow for bikes anyway. And thirdly, I think Ron would agree with me on this one. We are apprehensive that the development of this site, which is not very sustainable, is going to have an adverse impact on the 3 industrial estates in Westfield. And some of the businesses running in Westfield would very much benefit from going to a larger site. There's no doubt about that. And but if we were to lose employers like Sun Chemicals with the millions of pounds of investment they've made in Westfield, or Continuforms, who have the monopoly on the checkbook printing business, that would be a very serious blow. And so that's what I wanted to say. I think I've got to go to this other meeting. They're flashing at me, but if you wouldn't mind replying by email, or
of course,
giving everybody else the benefit of how this will impact on Westfield, I'm sure Ron will take it up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Bye.
Yes. Thank you. So I'll just take that point by point. So when I mentioned Radco earlier, that was in relation to the amendments being made to Thicketmead Roundabout. So we have incorporated the expected travel movements from committed development in the area, including Radco, and included that in the design to the roundabout to increase the capacity of the roundabout to account for those developments. So that's that link to Radco there. In terms of buses, we are providing the infrastructure for buses, and then the conversation has is ongoing with WECA in order kind of to determine what can be done in terms of bus routes. But as they are put in place by WECA, that is a conversation we have to keep going. But we are putting the infrastructure in place in hopes that that's something that we can progress with WECA. And then in terms of the impact on other industrial estates, so I can't talk to the specific figures, but I'm happy to share them afterwards. But I believe when the Baines economic strategy work was done, it was shown that there is a need for further industrial space in the Somer Valley and the wider area. So we don't see Sfez as a competing space, just adding to the demand of the area, and certainly wouldn't want to take from other industrial estates. I believe it's with different sized units and different options on the site for the use classes that will hopefully be beneficial to the area and not. Yes, Ron?
Can I just ask you to ask your team to put forward the plan for the proposed route for HGV tracks or trailers from the magically improved Thicket Mead roundabout through Midsummer Norton, Radstock, and out onto the A367 for Frome and other distribution. Bear in mind that you've got roads which are unsuitable of width for 2 cars, let alone 2 3-axle trailers. I'd like to know what route was forecast for those vehicles from Thicket Mead.
If you leave that with me.
Thank you.
Okay then, so is everybody happy? I no more questions. Okay then, well, thanks very much, Ella, for that, and be interesting to get the information ultimately from you. Thank you very much. So if we can move on now to item number 9, and Richard Deone, who's Deputy Head of Planning Policy with Baines, and ask him to give an update on the local plan.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as with Ella, I've also got some slides just as a brief update really on the local plan. Hopefully all of you are aware, but just as a reminder, a local plan sets the planning policy framework for determining planning applications for any development that requires planning permission. It sets that policy framework for about 15 to 20 years, and crucially, it identifies and allocates sites for development, whether that's for housing development, employment development, supporting infrastructure, etc. So it's a really crucial document in terms of looking at the sort of both the short term but also the longer term future of the area. Just wanted to give you a brief update in terms of the recent sort of publication of national policy and changes to national policy and the implications that will have for our local plan. Just to also say there is a fuller update that was given to all parish and town councils. That was given on the 7th of November, and the recording of that meeting and the sort of fuller presentation is available to parish and town councils to view through the link actually in this presentation, and the passwords on the screen as well there to be able to access that. So I'll just take you briefly, as I say, through some of the key revisions to the national policy framework, what that means in terms of the local plan and the next step. So next slide, please. Thanks. Yeah, so in the summer, hopefully many of you probably are aware that the government did publish some proposed changes to national policy and other changes to the planning system. That was published for consultation, and the government is sort of seeking to finalise those changes. I've put there by January 2025, but actually the latest information we've got suggests the government's keen to publish the revised sort of national policy before the Christmas break for Parliament. So I think that's the 19th of December. So it is expected very soon. The changes that were sort of put forward are very much around, I suppose, trying to ensure the planning system better facilitates economic growth and the delivery of more housing. And again, many of you will be aware that that's the, this government's approach is very much focused on trying to drive and deliver economic growth. So in terms of Bath North East Somerset as a whole, very significant changes, in particular a revised housing figure for us, which, if as per the draft, would be more than double what we've currently, the current figure. So the current figure is about 700 per annum, and that would increase to more than 1,400 per annum. So over a sort of 20-year period, that's sort of up from around 14,000 new homes to plan for to around 29,000. So it's a really significant uplift. There are other sort of quite significant policy changes around Greenbelt, but particularly around also economic growth and the delivery of additional employment space to facilitate growth in key sectors, as well as a lot of emphasis on providing not just housing but affordable housing, and I have to say encouraging greater provision, if you like, of renewable energy infrastructure as well. Next slide, please. So, I mean, as I've said, those implications are really significant for us, in particular that, more than doubling of the housing figure. So as a result, in September, the council's cabinet took the decision to reset the local plan. So that doesn't mean ripping up, if you like, all the work we've done to date and starting again. The work we've done to date and some of the options that we consulted on in the spring of this year, as well as all of the comments we received, they're still valid, they're still relevant, but clearly we need to, look at further options. So we've reset the local plan. That's going to mean quite a lot of more evidence-based work. So things around looking at the type of housing that should be provided, where economic growth could be delivered, the transport impact of development, the infrastructure requirements. So it needs a lot of further evidence-based work. It will mean relooking at, as I say, additional options for development. And in light of that, obviously, we will be looking to engage very closely with yourselves and other stakeholders in terms of looking at those options. So next slide, please. Thanks. I mean, in terms of the sort of local plan programme, if you like, all of this work has had a significant impact on that. So we did consult on options in the spring of this year, and then we were looking to move towards a draft of the local plan for early next year for consultation, before then submitting it for examination by a government appointed planning inspector. But next slide, please. But all of this additional development, in effect, that we've got to look at, and the other national policy changes, means the programme is sort of pushed back by around about 12 months. So we will have to have a further consultation on options again in the summer of next year, before we then look to hopefully produce the draft plan and consult on that in early 2026, before then submitting it for examination in the summer of 2026, and then hopefully adopting it in 2027. But unfortunately, yeah, it does delay plan preparation. Next slide, please. So yeah, just to wrap up, I suppose, a little bit around the sort of next steps, and ensuring that we do involve yourselves and other stakeholders. So there's a really important role, as I say, for parish and town councils in terms of helping us work on the local plan. Some of you may have attended some site assessment training that we provided earlier in the year. And again, I know a number of you are starting to look at some potential development sites. That work definitely needs to continue, but you've got a little bit longer to do that. I think previously we probably said you had until October to do that work. Now we're saying you've got until the end of the year, or in fact probably early into next year, to undertake that work. But if you've started, please do continue with it. And if you haven't started looking at the sites, again, I would urge you as parish councils and town councils to undertake that work. In terms of sort of consultation, public consultation, we will look to learn the lessons from the previous options consultation, and hopefully to make that consultation and the means of responding to it a little bit simpler and a bit clearer, because I know there was some criticism of the previous sort of consultation arrangements. There'll be a mixture of both broad engagement across the whole of Bath, North East Somerset, but very much targeted engagement, particularly on those communities that might be more affected by some of those development options. We'll also need to make sure that the engagement that we get and the comments we get back, that is properly representative, if you like, of the wider population. So we will probably be collecting more information and monitoring you know, the demographics, if you like, of those that do respond. And I suppose the final point I just want to make is that, again, we will look to make sure we coordinate better with other consultations that the council's undertaking, because I know sometimes it's a bit confusing when the council comes out to consult on the local plan and then there's other sort of strategies we're also consulting on. It's not always easy to see the relationship between them. So again, we will look to coordinate better with those other consultations and explain that relationship. But I think the key point is we do very much want to work with yourselves in progressing towards the options in the summer of next year. So that was hopefully a helpful update. Happy to take any questions.
So does anyone have any questions?
Yes, please.
Tim?
Sorry to be taking over the meeting. Thank you very much, Richard, for that. How does it affect our 5-year plan?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the 5-year housing land supply, again, we're waiting for the government to publish the final version of the NPPF. Once they do publish the final version, we will obviously then have to recalculate our 5-year land supply and publish that. If, you know, and we don't know yet, but if we don't have a 5-year land supply, yes, obviously delaying the local plan by about 12 months does make us vulnerable to speculative planning applications for a bit longer. So I think what we'd have to do, Tim, is look at, you know, other actions we can take to try and mitigate that risk. I suppose just to reassure you, what I would say is whilst there'll be sort of speculative planning applications coming in places that we haven't allocated for development, we have got a strong set of up-to-date policies that will ensure that development is of the highest quality, and that it does, you know, deliver a lot of the council's priorities, if you like, around things like sustainable construction, biodiversity, net gain, etc. So we have got, you know, clear policies in place that will enable us to determine those planning applications. But yes, in short, Tim, if we haven't got a 5-year land supply, the period of vulnerability will be longer, unfortunately.
Thanks, Richard, and thanks for the work. I know you're going above and beyond to get this done, so appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much, Richard. There's a devil of a lot of work going on there, isn't there? So, and we do need housing. So, yeah, thank you very much indeed for coming and giving us that report. Much appreciated.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we move on now to item 9, and that's Sarah Grimes, Head of Community Business Development at Bath and West Community Energy, speaking about some forthcoming projects and opportunities. So over to you, Sarah.
Okay, thank you very much. We're actually going to be, I'm actually sharing this presentation with Nikki Brain from Bath and North East Somerset Council, since we're working on this project in partnership. So I believe Nikki's going to lead off on our slides, and then I'll pick up a few of them as we go into them, if that's okay.
Yes. Hi everyone. To those who I haven't met before, I'm Nikki Brain. I'm the Energy Transformation Manager at the council, and I'm just going to share my screen. Can everybody see this presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so I'm here today with Sarah and with my colleague Eleanor as well, to talk to you about a project that we've just begun work on. So we submitted a bid to the Lotteries Climate Action Fund earlier this year, and we've just, well, in the last couple of months, found out that we were successful with the bid. So we now have £1.5 million to spend over 3 years to develop a community energy network in Baines. So this is a partnership between the council, Bath and West Community Energy, the Community Wellbeing Hub and the University of Bath. So it's a 3-year funded project, and our overall aim is to increase participation in the energy transition, and that's both focused on home energy, so what people would like to do in their homes to support healthier homes, green homes, lower bills, and also around community owned renewable energy. And it's very much a partnership between these organisations, but then also a partnership with local organisations. So that's town and parish councils, community groups, neighbourhood groups who want to take action in these areas. So just to kind of explain why Baines led on this proposal, and as you will probably all know, we've declared a climate emergency. We have a new climate and nature strategy coming out next year, but our key targets really will remain the same. We want to be a net zero council in our own operations by 2030. We want to enable 300 megawatts of renewable generation across Baines by 2030, and we have a target to ensure that 65,000 homes become more energy efficient by 2030. So that's the number of homes at the moment that require some element of retrofit. And we have a strong commitment to supporting community-led energy development so that the benefits of those developments stay within the community, and that the community has more control and more say over where those developments happen. So I'll just pass to Sarah to talk a bit about Bath and West.
Yeah, so we're really happy to be involved in this project. Some of you might know BWCE, we've been around since 2010, and we really got our start by installing renewable energy. So we've done that on a lot of schools. That's probably what we're best known for, especially around in the Somer Valley. We've got Peasdown St John, we've got Norton Hill, Ridlington, Somervale, St John's Primary, St Mary's in Timsbury, Dragonfly Leisure Centre as well. We've also got 5 biodiverse solar fields, or smaller scale solar fields, and the way that we do that is if we're going to a school, we'll offer them a lower price for their power than they'd be paying for the big 6, and we'll cap that at a certain level so that in the energy crisis that was really important for the schools because they didn't get hit by those massive price increases when they were buying the renewable energy from our solar panels. So it works well for the school. We raise the money to install all these solar panels by doing local share, amongst other things, by raising money through local shares. People invest in us, and in investing they become members of BWCE, so we're democratic and governed by our members. And any excess revenue, since we're non-profit, goes into our independent community benefit fund. So we've reinvested about £380,000 into that fund since 2010, and that's gone to anything that helps tackle climate change, broadly construed really. So that could be anything from, you see here, this was Crop Drop, which is redistributing surplus from allotments to community centres, anything like that, through to the energy crisis, where we were supporting community organisations to provide slow cookers and electric blankets and the like, because people just really weren't able to pay their bills. So providing them ways to keep warm and reduce their energy use. And so, due to the success of our work around renewable energy, we've recently moved into the other side of the energy coin, which is helping to reduce the demand for energy. So by enabling people to make their homes more efficient. So we've got a team of energy experts now who'll go out and provide advice, paid for energy surveys and support in retrofitting your home, as well as going out and getting grant funded projects, such as some of you might have been involved in the Open Homes events that recently took place. So we had one at Peasdown where people opened up their homes to showcase the energy efficiency measures they've done. We also had one at Radstock, and we've also got projects on listed buildings, one on air source heat pumps. So a lot of projects like that throughout the district, and our vision would be to enable the power that comes from our renewable energy generation to actually be sold directly to local people at a lower price. And we're working very hard on that as well. So that's a little bit about us, and that really, being part of this project enables us to really just expand on a lot of this work that we've been doing throughout Bath and North East Somerset. So yeah, that's why we're pleased to be involved. Back to you, Nikki or Sarah maybe now, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'll pass on to Sarah Dixon just to speak a bit about the Community Wellbeing Hub and why the Hub is involved in this project.
Thanks, Nikki.
So for those of you who know me in the community engagement team, you'll know that our team are also involved in the Community Wellbeing Hub. And just to sort of recap what the Community Wellbeing Hub does, it provides a central point of access to multiple partners and services across the area. The partnership was set up back in March 2020 in response to COVID, and supported many communities around the COVID response, and worked with many parish councils and organisations. We work really closely with Radstock and Midsummer Norton Westfield councils and Peasdown to support the COVID response. The hub has since then grown quite dramatically. So in March 2020, we had 6 partners. We now stand at 35 partners. We're really delighted that the partnership's grown so rapidly, and it provides now access to over 80 plus services. So when we had the opportunity to talk to Sarah and Nikki about joining in this partnership, we felt that actually a number of our partners could really support that wider networking. So our involvement in the partnership is to enable some more resources to be put into some of our third sector partners through Citizens Advice and Age UK, so that they are delivering energy advice to support people that need help around saving energy, reducing energy costs, looking at their well-being and financial support, and connecting them to other services. So this is a great opportunity for the hub, and we're really excited because we see this as a real benefit to not only our communities but our third sector, but also the opportunity that it brings in terms of that wider network, and also how we can also be involved in the community renewables.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. So yes, that is the partnership, Bath and West Community Energy, the Wellbeing Hub, the Council, the University of Bath are also supporting on this project to help us understand impact over the 3 years, to evaluate the project and to sort of do that throughout. So if we're not achieving the impact that we want to see, then we'll have the opportunity to adjust things as we go along. And the project's also supported by the Centre for Sustainable Energy. Many of you will hopefully be aware of the CSE and the services that it already provides in Baines around energy support. So the CSE is going to help by training up the advisors who will be sat within the hub, and by helping to train energy champions across Baines in order to sort of provide that messaging locally within different communities. So I'll pass over to Sarah.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. So really a vital, the home energy part of the community energy network really wants to be able to provide support for everyone wherever they are in terms of their own energy efficiency in their home. And everyone's in a different place with this, depending on what walk of life or type of house you live in. We want to promote energy efficiency, enabling people to get renewable energy if they want it on their home, low carbon heating. We want to do this through a network of champions, which can either be organisations or individuals. And we envision the network supporting a range of different projects selected by the participants, really, supported by a programme that we'll curate of training, events and celebration as well. I think oftentimes it can be hard to sometimes take the time to celebrate what you've achieved when you're at the coalface trying to help people make their homes more efficient. So the network will really bring people together to actually just reflect on the achievements as well. And through this, we want to not only support those who are already promoting energy efficiency, which are literally hundreds of people and organisations who are already doing stuff here, be they local eco groups to community organisations dealing with fuel poverty, be they the people who are involved in the Green Open Homes, or our champions at Bath and West Community Energy who are championing listed building retrofit or air source heat pumps. But we also want to be able to bring in new participants, such as perhaps potentially working with town and parish councils on how you would want to address energy efficiency in your area, and other community groups that maybe would like to do more on energy to supporting people in that way, but haven't had the chance to so far. So supporting the existing and bringing in new, I think, is what we want to do. And if we go on to the next slide, a big part of this, as Sarah was starting to allude to, is around supporting people who are at risk of fuel poverty, which, as we all know, energy prices are still really high, and they haven't really gone down to pre-Ukraine levels, and they're not really expected to, which is really causing trouble for a lot of people who are you know, having to decide, you know, making that choice between a food or not being able to turn on their oven. You know, that they're fine, you know, getting by in a cold home, and then one of them has an accident and then is immobile, and then all of a sudden the cold really starts to affect their health. People with pre-existing conditions like respiratory conditions living in a cold, damp, mouldy home. You know, this is really adding pressure to our communities. And so we want to start to really beef up the amount of support that's available for people in that situation. So doing that in a couple of key ways. So as Nikki mentioned, 2 paid energy advisors to sit within the Community Wellbeing Hub, and they'll actually sit within Age UK and Citizens Advice, who are already out there speaking to people who might benefit from this sort of support. They'll be trained from by the Centre for Sustainable Energy, and they'll be able to refer in, they'll be able to do casework and refer to the Centre for Sustainable Energy to do casework, so they'll actually go in and really find the exact solution that person needs. These advisors will be supported by what we're hoping will be 50 trained volunteer energy advice champions. So these could be people who are traditional volunteers who want, you know, just want to have some level of training and provide energy advice, or it might be people who are frontline workers or involved in other community groups who want to just have a basic training on how to recognise the signs of fuel poverty when they're in a home or when they're talking to someone, and how to signpost them to the support they need. And through that, we just want to expand the reach of being able to identify when these risks are occurring and sort them out to the degree we're able to. We'll do that through in-person drop-in sessions, home visits, and we really want to find ways to be where the right places. So where the people who might benefit from this advice already are, so we can, you know, rather than having people have to come to us. So for that, we'll really be looking to yourselves as community leaders and parish and town councils and organisations to just suggest, you know, what is already happening to help reach people who are at risk of fuel poverty, what advice and support is already available as far as you're aware, and how can that be boosted up? You know, where do we need to be where we're not right now? What kind of support do people need? And so that will be really what the start of the project is. It's just very much going out to yourselves. You know, we know we'll probably be at the RUH supporting people who are getting discharged, going back potentially to a cold home, you know, GP surgeries, you know, at community events, those sort of things, but really targeting it so we actually achieve what we need to achieve. So yeah, watch this space. And later at the end of the presentation, we'll maybe be taking a few ideas that might come to the top of your mind on what we could be doing. So back to Nikki then for the renewable energy.
Thank you. And so the other side of the network is around community renewables. So some of you might have been involved in the workshops that we did a couple of years ago. It was a pilot kind of process that the Centre for Sustainable Energy has developed around really sort of hyperlocal energy planning. So looking at the potential for renewable energy within an area, sort of talking about people's views about the landscape, about sort of places they appreciate, places they might want to see development, places they might not. And so for that community to be coming up with suggestions. So we did 3 workshops back in 2022. One of them was Peasdown and Wellow, so I don't know if anyone on the call was involved in that. And it was a nice sort of visioning exercise, but I think ultimately what CSE has created this methodology for is really to inform things like neighbourhood planning, so that those communities can sort of take forward those ideas. And what we'd like to do now is to kind of revisit with those communities that we did those workshops, kind of some of those suggestions, and now see if there's a way that through this project we can actually support them to deliver those some of those ideas if they still have support within those communities. And also we have funding to work with 3 more communities who might not have been involved in those initial conversations. So the idea is firstly a bit of sort of engagement, sort of community mapping of potential for projects, and then identifying projects with those communities to take forward. It will be reliant on community enthusiasm, actually wanting those projects to exist, and Bath and West Community Energy as a sort of technical advisor to those projects can support through kind of feasibility and looking at ownership options. So it might be that the community wants to own those assets going forward wholesale. It might be that they'd prefer BWC to develop those projects and then the community receive a community fund, so that the benefits from, so the income from those projects going back into a community fund that can be administered by that community. There's different levels of kind of ownership and responsibility that communities might want to take on, but it's essentially to help people do what BWC already does, but at a local level. It takes a lot of time and effort to set up a community renewables project, and as we've already got the expertise in the district, then it's looking to see how we can kind of support new projects with local communities going forward. And we've got an aim to deliver 5 megawatts of new community-owned generation by 2030 through this process. So next steps for the project. So we're very much just bringing this to you as a kind of early discussion about what we're planning on doing. We're recruiting staff at the moment, and we're planning to launch the project properly in February. We will be organising a sort of community meeting so that groups who might be interested in taking part can find out more at that time. And until then, we're sort of going out and doing some of these discussions really with existing groups that are kind of working in the space, potential participants, to find out what people are interested in taking part in, where they think it might work in their areas, kind of any ideas you have. And also to remind people that if you are looking for somewhere to find out what support is available around energy efficiency in the home at the moment, we do have the council's Energy at Home website, which is energyathome.org.uk, and that's got the information about existing grants and support that are on offer. And I've put Ellie's email address here at the bottom. I'll stop sharing in a minute so Ellie can introduce herself. She's been with us a couple of weeks and is just getting up to speed, as she will be the project manager for this project. So I'm just going to stop sharing, Ellie, so that you can say hi, but I'll also drop her email address into the chat.
Hi everybody. Yeah, I'm just in my second week, so kind of getting to grips with what's in the area. I'm really excited to be this project from the council. Lots of people. But yeah, if you want to...
Ellie, you're very quiet for me. I don't know if you are for other people.
Oh, sorry. Can you
That's
hear me?
okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what that was about. Yeah, sorry. If you wanted to get in touch with me, Nikki's just put my email in the chat there. But I'll be the kind of council point of contact. And I'm getting stuck.
So, just open it up for any questions that people might have.
Ron.
Yeah. Hi. I'm sorry to be so dominant in this meeting tonight, but can I ask you one blunt question? Why has Baines rejected all the common research now and favourable research into subterranean heat exchange energy supplies, such as ex-mining sites? Why has Baines been so vehemently against it?
Hi Ron, so we haven't met before. I don't think Baines has rejected that. So the West of England Combined Authority is funding some studies at the moment looking at the heat recovery potential from the mines around this area. So they're funding a study in the Baines area specifically and a wider area study. I'm on the project team for that. You might remember there was a launch of that project at the Radstock Coal Museum a few months ago, where Dan Norris sort of spoke. So it's something that is being actively looked at and sort of feasibility being funded at the moment. So it might be that once we got the results of that study, I can come back and talk to this forum about that. It certainly hasn't been rejected.
Time frame?
Time frame. So absolutely
hasn't
been rejected.
You give us a time frame of starting 5 megawatts of energy in this area by the end of the year. What's the time frame for subterranean energy?
So we should, I think the next couple of years will be feasibility, and then after that, once if it looks like any sites are viable to take forward, then you'd be looking at sort of a 5-year plus development time frame for those projects. It's not
And you don't accept that there are already sites which have been clearly identified as being absolutely ideal for that process?
Well, as far as I know, the reason that the West of England Combined Authority is funding this work is that we don't have that evidence currently. No, the Coal Authority has
unbelievable
sort of high level evidence of where there might be available heat recovery, but I think they're doing more in-depth work now. So unless you have any sort of information or studies you could point me to.
I would be delighted to talk to you about it at any time, because it's something that's very close to my heart, especially if you live in this area and know that there are mines abandoned with narrow seams but still loaded with coal, especially anthracitic coal, as it was in Radstock and the piece down in this area around here. I find it very difficult to accept that nobody's proceeding more quickly with what has been declared by the World Energy Authority as an ideal site.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, so we should have the results of the Baines kind of early feasibility study by the start of next year. So that's coming through. And then the West of England Combined Authority is going to look at the different sites that have been identified and choose which ones they're going to do some more studies on, and that could involve some experimental drilling. So we don't know which sites they're going to choose yet. I think they've got funding to explore 3 sites, and that's across the West of England area. So we will sort of obviously have to take a decision at that point which sites get looked at. And then the other thing that my team is looking at commissioning at the moment is a demand study, because obviously one thing is how you extract the heat and the potential for doing that, and the other thing is where the heat goes. You need both sides in order to make it work. So obviously, given the level of new development that we're looking at within Baines, and sort of looking at kind of existing opportunities for linking up existing buildings, we're sort of doing a demand study on the other side so that we can present that to say, yeah, to weigh up both those things to see which areas will be viable.
Be delighted to hear from you through the chair. Thank you very much.
Great. Yeah, well, we can come back and update on where those studies have got to once they're published.
All right.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Sarah, Nikki, Eleanor and Sarah. That's been very interesting, and we look forward to seeing you again and getting more information from you. Okay then, so I think that's an end.
It is.
It is, yes. And I thank everybody for attending this evening. An update will be circulated following the meeting, and we do have some dates for forum meetings next year. There will be circulated again, but there may also be some engagements with you prior to the first advertised meeting, and we'll be in touch. And if anyone has any suggestions for any topics that the forum should discuss or wants to present as part of the community showcase, please let us know. And if you have enjoyed this evening's meeting, do tell your friends and contacts about the forum and get them to come along to all our meetings. It's so important we get people. Now, we look forward to seeing you all again soon, and I'll just list up the meetings. If you've got a pen, you can jot them down. So we've got the 5th of March next year, the 18th of June, 17th of September, and the 24th of November. Okay, so we look forward to seeing you all then, and it would be nice if we can get back to having some face-to-face meetings. That's me anyway, that's what I prefer. So, but as again, thank you very much and have a good evening now.